Eurovision. Let's talk Eurovision. Let's talk Eurovision.
Chocolate covered sugar and spice. Tasty, tasty, yum, yum, tasty. Try how much time do we have left together? I can tell you.
Hello, 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 Eurovision world. It's me, Matt, and Connor, ESC United, your favorite Eurovision channel, or hopefully at least for the next few minutes, as we are here to talk about semi-final 2, just a little bit before the show gets started for an hour. And then, of course, I'll be back after the show as well to discuss the results, which we're all going to be so happy, so excited. Nobody will be disappointed, right? Because that never, ever happens. How are you holding up, Connor?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been I don't know, it's a busy Eurovision week for me, both in terms of work and personal life. So it's crazy that it's already Thursday, because it feels like yesterday was Monday and we had just gotten the first, the second dress rehearsal access. So this Eurovision week is flying. I don't know if I like it or if I don't like it, but it's flying.
I feel the same way because, it's so busy for me. So I'm like, oh, can we make it? I'm almost done. Because I don't, it's fun doing it from home, but you don't get to experience the excitement on site, when you're there, right? So you're kind of just sitting at your desk the entire time. But I love Eurovision anyways. Hello, everybody in the chat, by the way. I hope you're ready. So what we'll do, we're going to go quickly through some of the things. Semifinal 2, we have a few news that we want to talk about and all of that stuff. So I think since we only have like about an hour, I think let's just jump right into it. And Connor, I think you came also in, but don't share them yet, with your personal predictions, right?
Yes, I have slaved and tried really hard to figure out what my 10 qualifiers are, and I think I've come to a conclusion. We'll see.
Yeah, I regret
change
my
again.
decision already because this is so hard to. So I'm gonna just real quick show mine real quick again without much explanation because we talked about them yesterday at length. Oy, I choked. And I also did a whole video about that. So I'm not going to go into details, but I'm just going to go through them real quick in order as I have listed them. And then Connor, I want to hear where you agree, disagree, because I know we disagree. And keep in mind, this is not my personal list in terms of like my top 10. Anyways, I think number 1, Israel will qualify. Number 2, Austria will qualify. Number 3, Finland will qualify. Number 4, Luxembourg will qualify. Number 5, Australia will qualify. And I say these are the I'm most confident about these 5, right? So I feel like they're locks in my book. Now I'm going to talk about where I feel fairly safe. I call them likely, not guaranteed. Malta, I could see universe where this will not work, but I do think it will. And then the next ones are all just hunches. That could go either way. There are 8 countries, I think, that I want to put in there, but I only have 4 spots. And this 4, I chose number 7, Latvia. Number 8, Serbia. Number 9, Lithuania. And number 10, Greece. So that means who is out? Czechia is out. Ireland is out. Armenia is out. Denmark is out. Montenegro and Georgia. So those are the ones I predicted, and I am not even certain in any shape or form. I felt like I could throw darts or just pick them out of a hat, like some of them. But Connor, which one do you have? Where do we match? Where do we not?
So I think that we are in agreement that Finland, Luxembourg, and Austria are pretty safe qualifiers. We can get into the details later. But those are the 3 that kind of immediately came to mind for me. In terms of the ones that I'm feeling somewhat confident about, and I feel like are going to be in just where, I have no idea. I also have Latvia, Australia, and let's see, Israel and Malta on that list as well that we share. Where we diverge just a little bit is where I have my last ins, plural, because I have quite a lot of folks that are on the bubble right now. Really, for me, those countries are Denmark, Czechia, Armenia, Lithuania, and Serbia.
Same for me.
Those are the
I just
5
came to conclusions, right? So we have the same bubble. It seems like you picked other outside of that.
Yeah, and so those are the ones that when I say that I was milling over these predictions a ton, these are the ones that I was trying to figure out what happens, in what world does this country get in and that country gets in, and I think so far kind of where I've landed is Armenia, Czechia, and Denmark. I think are kind of my 3 that I predict in the bubble.
Okay.
Lithuania, I do still think has a chance. So I'm not counting them out by any means, but I think it really just depends on how that performance is perceived by the audience. It could potentially be perceived as a little flat and monotone, but it's the European audience, so we never know what they're thinking. And Serbia, though it's a great ballad, you know me, I love a Serbian ballad at Eurovision. I just worry that it doesn't have enough oomph to carry it over the finish line. I see maybe an 11th or 12th place for it because, again, vocally arresting. If this was a vocal qualification, like just a jury qualification, I think he's a safe qualifier. Yeah. But it's the public, and we never know what the heck they're going to do anyway.
Yeah, no, I know, right? And so then out for you are then Ireland, Montenegro, Georgia. Who else? Help me real quick.
It would be Lithuania, Serbia, Greece, Georgia, Ireland, and Montenegro. That would be out for me. Not in that order, but
yeah, it's tough. And I would love to hear the chat as well, what you're thinking, where you agree, disagree. And as always, when you talk to us at ESC United, I think even though we have diverged a little in some of those, but I think the pool that we're looking at is the same. It's just so hard. What is the mood? You know, there could be just this little thing. And the reason why I have Lithuania in is just because, and it's a reality, they'll get probably 12, if not 10, or minimum 10 from Ireland, from the UK, from Latvia. So they have already a major head start. And there was another country that I was going to mention. I forgot. Probably some Czechia votes as well. So I think they just have a healthy head start that I feel more confident that they will be in there. And all they need is just a few points here and there to get through. So I think they are in like the semi. That was my thinking as well. Because I have a feeling, because I was outside the bubble for so long, that a lot of viewers will have a similar feel about Lithuania. It's too dark, too gloomy. But I think it'll still be enough for it to go through. But that why I feel a little bit more not confident, but optimistic for their chances. But I understand. I agree with your assessment. I don't live in the world where Europe rejects a rock song as Lithuania, with Finland and Latvia supporting their neighbors. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I said right now, right? What do you think about that, Connor?
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree. I think that, I don't want a Lithuanian non-qualification to come off as like, I don't think it's a good song, because I think it is, right? I think, to me personally, it is in my qualifier list. I think what I worry about is that they may have a really high showing from neighborly votes. It's the non-neighborly votes that I'm questioning right now, right? Where do they land in those votes? Because if they land, high and mid in those votes, then they're great. Solid, slide straight into the final. But if they end up lower and other people average around, we could have an instance where they miss out on the final by 3 votes, right? And we've had that happen before, that a non-qualification came down to a single-digit total of votes. So we're in a really weird gamble spot right now. Again, there's 5 countries that we're dealing with. It's like, who knows what's going to happen? And truly, it just ends up on who votes tonight and what are their tastes. Truly, because if they all love pop music, then I don't know that Lithuania gets through. I have a sad spot. I saw someone mentioned it in the chat about the Greek entry, and I also want to say that I would love for Greece to be in the final because I love this song. But I just don't know if it necessarily stacks up in the pool of 16. If this was in the first semifinal, I think that they have a much easier chance at qualifying through. Because again, that was 5 spots that are going to be non-qualifiers versus 6. So in this semifinal, really, you don't want to be in this semi. I don't think any of these acts wanted to be in the semifinal, because this is the harder one to get in through. And I think I just don't know if I have seen enough in the Greece entry in the performance to confidently say that's in.
Yeah. Now, somebody's asking, if Greece were to make it tonight, right, in the top 10 tonight, do you think the juries will put it high in the top 10? Or you think this is not a jury song? Just because of the ballad and a good voice doesn't necessarily mean the juries will go for it. Because sometimes they have been hesitant towards like more traditional non-English ballads at times, right? So I don't know how you think about this one.
I think that I don't necessarily think that it would do bad in the juries. I think that there is a stronger case to be made for, if Serbia qualifies, that it would be a very high jury song. Again, I think at least of the second half of the show, I think Prince really just mops the floor, pun intended, with the running order vocally. Greece, I think, is a great vocal performance. I just don't know if that is something that I could confidently say, like, yes, the juries would flock to it. I do think that it would be in certain countries' top 10s and certain jury members' top 10s.
It will not flop with the juries, basically.
No, it won't flop. It's just, again,
there's a lot of jury bait in this final, though, at least perceived jury bait. You never know. Everything is speculation, a little bit, and observation, right? So I don't want to.
There's also a lot of really good vocals. Like,
Yes.
truthfully, this year we do have a lot of really good vocalists. So there's no like standout, like, that's what a jury's going to vote
Yeah.
for.
Sadie was asking something about, how we had in the first semi, all of the non-English songs qualified, and there were 6 English, so only one managed to get in, which was Norway. Could you see a similar outcome in this semi? It's just where the country is gravitating. Was it really just the songs that happen to be non-English were the better songs? Because we have Montenegro, Latvia, Greece, Lithuania, Luxembourg, and Serbia, right? Serbia, so 6.
And
So we'll have at least 4.
in theory, Finland, although it's not in Finnish, it's in German. But
Finland. I forgot Finland. I stopped at Serbia. Finland as well. Sorry, 7. Yes, you're right. I forgot about Finland. So 7. So could you see all 7 of these go through?
Also, sorry, the phrase is German. The actual song is in Finnish.
Yeah.
I don't know Finnish that well. Do I see a world where that could happen? Well, for starters, it would be hard for that to happen because so many of these songs, in comparison to the first semi, are in English. I think that we could have a fair number of our non-English songs qualify, and in fact, I would kind of prefer that we have a little bit more native language non-English songs in the final, because I think that could impact what we get for 26, where we see countries understanding that you can, like, there's not a threat level of sending a song that is not an English number, right?
Yes.
I just think that there are also, unfortunately, some songs in here that are in English that I think could potentially outperform some of our non-English songs
In the semi.
In the semi, yes. Just because, again, they are a little bit more televote bait-y, these English songs, than in our first semifinal, where the first semifinal was kind of, I would say, predestined.
Yeah.
And it was a matter of who was in that semifinal, what song it was, less so the fact that it was a non-English song.
Yeah. I don't think people, and the viewers won't care what happened in the first semi, first of all. It's just more of that's the pattern. Like, people really yearn for non-English songs. I just really think, even looking at the songs, most of them were considered qualifiers. Now, we can talk about Belgium getting in, not in, and Portugal making it. That's like the biggest one, right? So they can have one case. But other than that, the other songs were often considered, likely qualifiers. So I am not surprised to see that. Now, in this one, I don't think Montenegro is in contention. I could see half of the songs, though, of the semi being non-English speaking songs, which would be crazy because we have 9 from this semi. Let's say we have 5 from this one, right? That's already 14. And then we have already 5 direct. So 19, I think, could be non-English songs, right?
Which,
that would be insane.
And I don't quite remember, because I know that one of the years that had one of the most non-English songs, I believe, was 2018, because it was the Salvador Sobral effect of winning the most recent song to win in a non-English language, and the landslide that it got. So it could be very interesting. And again, I'm always going to be a person who wants to promote and encourage broadcasters to not be afraid to take risks.
That's what
and to not think that there is a one size fits all approach to Eurovision, as we saw in the first semifinal, right? This is very different from kind of our approach to like 2019 and 2021, where a majority of the songs in the final are in English, and that was safe.
But then the top 3 were actually non-English songs too, right? So that's where it kind of started, actually, almost the trend. Like, look, the non-English songs did the best. But yeah, I get your point, because the majority of songs were in English. So it was very interesting. Who would you? Who do you predict wins this semi? Do you think it's going to be Israel, Finland, Austria, my gut, as I said earlier, I think Israel will win this one. How about you?
It's tricky to pick a winner, and I think just because this semifinal is very open, depending on how I'm qualifying this, like qualifying how I think people will vote, I think the best performance and package to me would be Luxembourg, and so I personally would say I would like Luxembourg to win, just because I think it is the best delivered package. Who do I actually think, like from a professional standpoint, who do I think people are going to pour all of their vote buckets into? I do believe it's going to be Finland.
Okay.
I think that truly, if I had to play a guess, the top three in some random order could potentially be Finland, Austria, and Israel. Israel does benefit from the fact that the rest of the world gets to vote in both of the semifinals, and so we've seen them do well in the rest of the world vote. So as we talked about Lithuania having a little bit of a head start in some votes, Israel also does get a head start there with the rest of the world vote. So I see them doing well, but who wins? I don't know, one of those three.
Yeah, I think that is a fair assessment. And before we talk a little bit more about that, because whoever, of course, wins, they will have to host Eurovision. I just want to briefly talk about 2026 already, which may sound premature, but I don't think it is, because there have been a lot of comments. First, the SVT already, I think, said that if they were to win, which is the Swedish broadcaster, they are looking at scaling down Eurovision significantly in terms of size and production, because the last 3 times they hosted, they actually lost money, and they don't want that to happen again, which surprised me because 2013 was already quite stripped back. I was there. So that is one of the things. And then also the Ukrainian team were talking about how expensive Eurovision has gotten, twice as much as last year, because just using the smoke effect on stage for Ukraine cost 15,000 euros per performance, not just for the whole thing. So the Martin Green actually had to comment on that and see, like, how do you think people can do this? How people can afford all of this? And I'm just going to read you the comment that he said. And I lost it. I think that broadly speaking, we've got 2 issues going on here. A double whammy of being in a relatively expensive country, which is Switzerland, and then just the general cost of living crisis. So that is what's contributing to these major costs. And maybe that's one of the many reasons a lot of countries will not come back. We understand there are some other reasons for certain countries, but for a lot of them, the smaller ones, it's becoming very, very difficult. So the mix between hosting being more like a deficit and this particular example, Connor, do you have any thoughts on this whole financial aspect because Eurovision costs money?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a similar conversation. I mean, I'm in the sports world, right? And so it's a similar conversation that the Olympics has been in the IOC, right? No one objectively wants to host the Olympics because it is so expensive to
We
do
are
so.
in 2 years in the LA. What?
Right. But we were selected to host the Olympics like 6 years ago, right? So that the financials could happen and things like that. And we were seeing this in Eurovision as well. I think a lot of the conversation, or where we've seen a lot of these rises, has been in the participation cost, the participation fee in particular, which, if anyone doesn't know this, those are actually scaled based off of the reach and the content of the broadcaster. So Montenegro is not going to be paying the same participation fee as Sweden. But what we also are seeing is that the base cost of these production things like pyro and smoke and whatever, those are at a fixed cost regardless of who you are. And so I think that, with things going up, and I don't necessarily see things going down in price anytime soon, I think that they definitely need to take a look at what are some ways in which we can make sure that this experience and this participation is affordable and can be financed, in particular by our broadcasters that do have smaller participating budgets, but is not a barrier to participating or potentially having a package that is going to be I don't want to say less put together because I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but maybe does not have the same level of access to things
Yeah.
as
Just to add, and
Sweden
just real
and
quick,
Belgium.
yeah. Before you continue, just Charlie asked a question: who pays for all the lodging and all that stuff? That's all comes from the broadcaster. The EBU is not paying for any of that, so that's all in addition what Connor is mentioning right now. So there's so many other costs. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so that's why we were talking about this a little bit off stream this morning, but I really think that what could be helpful is just a cost sharing model, right? You already have one with the participation fee here, right? So offer a small discount in the smoke for a country like Ukraine, that a country that is larger, like Belgium, for example, or the Netherlands, may pick up slightly, right? I know people are going to be like, oh, well, X person doesn't want to pay more because X person's paying less. But if X or Y person has more money in their budget than X person, there's a little bit of equality going on here. So I think that they definitely need to have a conversation because we are losing countries left and right. And if we continue to lose countries, we're probably going to go back to a one semifinal system because we don't need a 12 country semifinal where we cut 2 people.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are more concerns about certain countries withdrawing after this year, but we're not going to cross that bridge right now. Now, one of the things mentioned could be, what we have sponsors, right, covering some of these costs. Is that a double-edged sword, though? Because then it leaves the perception, and perception can be reality, right, or is to a lot of people, that they are buying the contest or kind of like controlling what's happening at Eurovision. Do you think that would be a good workaround, or you think it's just opening a can of worms that we should not do, having more advertisement? But it's hard because you want to make it cheaper for everyone, and that way you could, but then you maybe end up relying too much on these powerful corporations that could, even if the EBU doesn't do anything, even if it's completely separate, there's still the perception. And as pointed out, perception is reality. What do you think?
Well, I mean, of course, they have their large main sponsors, right, that are helping to financially back the overall experience, right? I think it would be a good potential idea as well to maybe find a local company that wants to privately sponsor some of the production costs for a semifinal. I don't want to go the route of a country, right? Because we've seen kind of how that worked out with Bulgaria, where they were sponsored, but then when they lost the sponsorship, well, they just quit. They were like, well, we can't afford it, so we're out. But who can come in and say, hey, I will cover 10% of the cost of any smoke effect that's used in the first semifinal, right? And reduce that cost, because then that 10% can go to things such as lodging. It can go to costuming. It can go to set design and LED, so that these broadcasters can move that money around and maybe make a more larger production, right? Rather than spending all of your money on a smoke machine throughout an entire week. And that's also, I mean, very common. It's very common.
So I'm not laughing at you. We just had a funny thought right now. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
It's very common to do this, right? To have someone who comes in and says, hey, I'm just going to give X amount of money, or I'm going to cover the cost for this, or don't worry about that bill, I'll take that. But don't necessarily need to be the poster child of the event, right? They just want to assist.
Because I don't want, exactly. I don't want Claudia go turn around and goes, fresh goes better, Mentos fresh is in her postcard,
Exactly.
Although that would be funny. That's the best jingle ever. That's why I just love that one. Fresh goes better with Mentos fresh and full of life. Anyways, Europeans know that one too, I think, right? Anyway, so that's the biggest thing, that you're going to bring in all of that. So it's tough. So I'm not saying we have the answer yet, but I think this has to be a big discussion going forward, because the trend right now, it's not, and it looks, I mean, look at what we have here in Switzerland. It's the most amazing stage production that we've ever seen. But are we willing to give up on more countries and then go back to one semi, or God forbid, only one show, just for the sake of this? That is the question. So there's more, of course, to discuss about that. I wanted to see We don't know that much, but is the EBU really working on searching new sponsors and making sure countries can participate? Cause why such big contest is such trouble financially? It's not the contest. It's really, you could have this way more affordable if you do it on a little stage in a small town with a small courtyard. Then you pay nothing. So it's less about that. It's really how big do you want this to be? Look at the Swedish 2013 staging. It was way simpler than what we have now in 2025. That's where it slowed down because it got really big, like 2008, 2009, like from 2011 till Azerbaijan house. It got bigger and bigger, and then Sweden was like, let's bring it down a little. But since then, it's gotten bigger and bigger again. So if you look at like the staging 2002 where we had or something like that, it would be way less. So it really comes down to how much is the broadcaster willing to put forward, and then where can the EBU add financial support? And that's what Martin Green said about, looking for, because they don't want to cut back on the quality of the contest, but it's, that's one thing I will say, it's hard to come up with a good option. So I fully understand that. And most of the time when you host it, I mean, Denmark was the worst about that one in 2014, but hosting is usually ending up in a deficit. So that's why people often like, I don't even want to host.
Yeah, they usually play the game of the cost of hosting is worth the risk of investment from tourism, which so far for most of our recent Eurovisions, not saying that they're necessarily fiscally bad or worse off, but I don't know that they necessarily ever turn a profit in what you spend. Now they set aside money, so that's a different story. Like it's not like they're using money that they don't have, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, and I think that it's definitely one that I hope that they have. Will they have it? I don't know. They may not. They may just be like, we don't care, and we raise the prices again. But it does make me really worried for a number of our countries who, if something doesn't change, may opt to just completely withdraw. And it puts it in a weird spot because we're already low. We're already at the lowest point that I think we've been at for the past couple of years.
Since the introduction of the semifinal system.
Yeah, so like we can't continue to lose countries.
Otherwise, are lost out of our control. We're talking about Russia, Belarus, even Turkey and Hungary to a certain extent, right? So those they're hurt. If we had those back, great story, but they cannot control that. So the focus should be on the affordability. North Macedonia, Romania, Moldova said wasn't financial, but who knows? Bulgaria, So there are other options. Monaco maybe come back. Who knows? So. And do you think, oh gosh, I shouldn't be saying that because I know the answer and I know my answer. Should they consider then having guest nations take part?
Oh, like doing some more invitations?
Like New Zealand. I mean, people would be pissed in Europe. I get that. But I don't mean to put you on the spot. It just was kind of.
I mean.
What is the good answer for you? Because that would be another option.
I could see that as being an option, right? I generally speaking, I think that is not a good solution because that's kind of putting a Band-Aid on the problem, because eventually if you put New Zealand in, right, give them a couple of years, they may price out and then they go away. And now you have to find a new person to bring in. And I don't think that that's what the EBU is wanting. I think the EBU is wanting to try and create a way that people can come and they can participate for as long as they want and can, versus bringing people in just to have numbers to fill a semifinal. Because if that was the case, there'd be a number of countries, like we'd have Kazakhstan in if that was the case, right? But we don't. And I think that they want to try and commit to keeping the countries that want to compete and have been competing in. And then if they can sustain that, then maybe we have a conversation about, can someone else come in?
Yeah. So yeah, it's the options at least, but the point is they need to reevaluate how it's going because they cannot keep growing. And it looks great. I'm not poo-pooing on the quality on the production here. It's really just like, is this sustainable? So just a conversation to have that we cannot solve today, as much as brilliant Connor and I are. That's not within our power. Going back to semifinal 2 in general right now. In case you didn't know, by the way, there was a dress rehearsal. They call it the family show, usually this afternoon, and there was an incident. And I'm going to read you the Swiss broadcaster statement so you understand, in case you have not heard about it. During the dress rehearsal for the second semifinal of the ESC this afternoon, the performance of the Israeli singer was disrupted. 6 people, including a family, it's an interesting thing to point out, pointing out the kids, disrupted the rehearsal with oversized flags and whistles. Security personnel were able to quickly identify those involved and escort them out of the hall. We would like to thank all the artists, delegations, staff, fans, and guests, including many children who are making the contest unique and experience. At the same time, we would like to emphasize the organizers are committed to a neutral, safe, inclusive, and respectful environment at the ESC. And if you check social media, there are videos out there, and there's a lot of booing as well, but we kind of assumed that during the performance. But you see a big flag, Palestinian flag there. And then I think the bigger issue more than anything, I think, even though it was oversized, fair enough, but it is more about probably the whistles that, you know, they try to drown the real audience sound, but having your whistles like that, it makes it a little bit more difficult. Connor, I would love to hear your thoughts, because you watched the family show earlier. Did you notice it with the live broadcast? What are your thoughts?
So I didn't hear it or notice it during the performance. And I'm going to pin that, and we'll get back to it for a second, or in a second. But after the performance, it was very noticeable. The 2 hosts are on stage, and they're trying to kind of do one of those, like, whatchamacallit, like stalling tactics, right, as they set up on stage for the next act. And you could hear it. It was not super loud. Also, I think it was at the back of the arena, so from an audio perspective, it makes sense. But I think it also calls into a question, or into question, the usage of the audience dampening that's happening. I notice it a lot because we get the dress rehearsals, and so we can kind of hear how they sound, and they all sound the same, right? You can know when the cheers are going to happen in every single performance, because they are muting, in a way, the audience and piping in applause for the actual televised staging.
Yeah.
And some countries, I think, are helped by that. This is an instance of that, right? Because we are not hearing what's happening in the arena. We are hearing the performance as it is. But I think it also calls into question that there's also a reverse of this, where some countries are perceived better in their performance, especially from the viewing audience. I'm thinking Australia in particular, right? I know that Australia is really well loved, and the crowd, really enjoys it. But there are some moments where there's like applause that you can hear, like clapping, as if the entire audience is in on, like, yes, Milkshake Man.
Yes,
And
it's like kind of, yeah. To add
correct.
to your point, is do you remember those comedy shows where they have the laugh track on? Oh, this is where I'm supposed to laugh. It's like a similar kind of idea. But go ahead.
Yeah, and it's a matter of, like, if you watch the show or if you watch the performance and you take that out, or if you have the original audience feed, it just gets perceived differently. One of the ones that I really want to point out is, and you all will see this evening, but there's a really, really weird decision that they've made, where in the Georgian performance, she's up on stage and on the rock, and she has like this big, like, overcoat kind of gown. And then she takes that off for the outfit that we see in the rehearsal clip. And they've added all of these cheers as if this reveal is like life altering. And it's literally just a matter of her just taking that coat off and walking away. And it's like, but like when you watch it, you're like, oh, people are like really excited about this. And in reality, it's,
I guess I should be excited
staged.
too.
Yeah, and Ireland is also a culprit of this, because I was watching it this morning, and I noticed that they added clapping in when she does the bum bum ba-da-dum bum 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 bum. There's a clap track that is going that I am not 100% certain is actually happening in the arena. So to me, it's just weird. Like, I get why they're doing it, right? Especially after last year, and also just trying to kind of streamline and make these performances as good for television as they can be. But sometimes there are acts that I think are being helped by this. And I think that there are some acts that aren't being
Yes.
helped as much.
Yeah.
And in particular, the up-tempo numbers are being helped.
Yes.
Lithuania is dead silent, and in comparison to the rest of the show, numbers is kind of awkward because of it. Like, I like it. I still like the performance. It still looks good. I don't want you to be worried about it. But you notice the fact that no one is cheering for the entire Lithuanian performance until it finishes.
Yeah.
And you
It's not a cheery
perceive that
song.
to be they don't like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's not the kind of song you go like, yay, because it's more like, oh gosh, I'm depressed. So no, I get it. And it's good to the broader point, not just about Israel, is that this cheering track, it has at least the appearance of manipulating the viewers, and then it becomes a little manufactured, the excitement. Now it sounds like we're thinking people are just stupid. And of course, some people won't care about that, but it still leaves like people like, oh, people are excited, when it's really just not a thing. So I don't like it when the genuine reaction in the audience is overshadowed, if you will, or they're using different sounds. And I understand though, and I keep telling people, I want you to go to Eurovision, have the best time of your life. Being in the arena is a lifetime experience. You've been done it once as well, right, Connor? So I'm sure you enjoyed it regardless of all of this. But in the end, when you're in the audience, you are part of the performance. You are a prop for the producers, and your appearance, you're there, that's great. They can get shots of you, they can have your wristbands light up, but when they don't want you as a prop, they'll make sure you're not there, whether it's with the camera work, and now they're using the sound on top of it. And I'm not saying that's right, but it just has become the reality of Eurovision, and I think that is unfortunate because it does feel a little takes away from the authenticity that Eurovision is and has been. The live fact part has been a huge part of the contest. Is that fair to say, Connor?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but
no, beat it. Just beat it. Okay. No, I'm kidding. Finish your thought.
But in the grand scheme of things, right? We're having this conversation. We're being really nitpicky and critiquing this. I want to say this does not impact the overall experience, right? Songs are not hurt by this. Songs are not being put at a disadvantage because of it. Songs are not going to be runaway televote favorites because of this. I just think that it's just a little odd, and I think that the control of who gets what and when and how is they've put themselves in a weird position that I don't know that they necessarily should have put themselves in. And for the most part, the audience, with the exception of last year, has been generally positive in reception to all of these acts and performances. Again, I get why we got here, but I'm hoping that this does not stick around because I don't know, it's starting to feel a little manufactured sometimes in Eurovision, and I would love to go back to a little bit more genuine, authentic performances. But I'm also a stickler for bringing the backing vocalists back. So,
I mean,
take me with a grain of salt.
That is, you don't even know me. That's for me a biggie too. But thanks COVID. That's just unfortunately that is here to stay. So, any questions or thoughts you have? Because we have 15 minutes left. We just wanted to talk some of the other things. Let us know in the chat at ESC United. They want the audience reactions, but also disturb them by also fake audience noise, but also want them, it's silence, just to be not knowing what they want, basically. Well, they do know what they want, and they want the reaction that they feel is most appropriate for that moment of the show, whether it's cheering, holding the lights, sad faces, whatever it may be. They will capture that moment. And that's why I keep saying, the audience, you are props at Eurovision. So, and this is not like some kind of democracy, well, you have a right to say whatever you want. And I disagree with that. I like the authentic sound at Eurovision. And honestly, it doesn't really make that big of a difference, at least in terms of votes, because there were so many acts that got booed, even in the 2000s. I remember Russia got booed several times, and then look how they did in the vote. I think it was, there are other, like Lithuania in 2006, we are the winners. They were booed, and they came in the best result yet. So it's at least allow them the audience to either cheer or not, not. So it's just part of live music, and they should never take that away in my book. So any other questions at ESC United? Anything about the Eurovision, what we talked about, the semifinal too? And as a reminder, I'll let you watch the show. I will be back after the qualifiers are known, and we'll talk this through. And I'm sure there will be no surprise qualifiers or surprise non-qualifiers going to go exactly as we all think. And since we're all thinking the exact same way, nothing to worry about. Next questions. Do you think an in-house dance team could be cheaper solution for some delegations? Connor, could you see that they only have a group of like local Swiss people do all the choreography where dancers are allowed? It's an interesting concept. I don't know how much that would actually save money because one of the reasons was the singers that didn't want to have, because they're not cheap, because you need people who can sing. So similar with the dancers. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a tricky situation that, from a performance preparation standpoint, it takes weeks to get things to where they look on the Eurovision stage, right? Like Spain did not just start rehearsing 2 weeks ago to do all of that performance and to finish their performance with a literal backflip to end the number, right? And so I think the concern becomes is that if you have all of the choreography being done in-house locally from the host country, you have to do one of two things. You have to bring the artists in earlier for rehearsals.
Yes.
Or you have to bring the artists in on a rotating schedule to bring them in so that they can rehearse with these groups. And you've also got to figure out contracts for these groups, these dancers, right? Because it is not even cheap to get them to do their choreography for the entire Eurovision week for a country, let alone to contract 6 people or maybe even a bundle of like 50.
Yeah, more than 6. Yeah, they need to have like
to be in charge of doing the entire semifinal. And you'd have to hire like almost 100 people, because the same 6 people, like the work to get from, like, if you performed in the first number, you would probably not be able to go back on until maybe number 6 or 7, maybe, in the terms of how you would have to flip, you would have to change, you may have to have makeup done, you have to connect with the delegation after you've been on stage. Like, that takes time, and there's such a short window. I don't know that is going to change the profit or change the cost. I think it's actually going to
sounds good on paper, but, it sounds good on paper, but I think it's just logistically impossible for the reasons you clearly articulately laid out, and I can't even speak right now. Sam is asking, what happened with Belgium? Why are you so sure Luxembourg is a qualifier after what happened? So I will say I think we're comparing apples and oranges here when it comes to the song. If anything, Belgium's genre and music has always been a kryptonite at Eurovision in terms of qualification, while Luxembourg to me is the opposite. I think actually Luxembourg's song is very Eurovision friendly. It's even is an homage to a Eurovision song, granted like 60 years ago, but it still has that more convenient sound to it that people will gravitate towards. So and to me, Luxembourg was always a qualifier. So to me personally, I never doubted them. So that's why I don't think they're necessarily comparable. And what are your thoughts, Connor?
Yeah, I definitely think that I think one of the reasons why, and someone has pointed out that I think the audio quality of Belgium's performance from rehearsal to the live show is a little different, so that may have a potential impact. I think that also it, staging-wise, looks amazing, but maybe was not everyone's cup of tea. I think Luxembourg has a little bit more of the perfect balance of everything here. It is very accessible. It is very entertaining. I think that they, and Matt, I've said this to you, and I will confidently say this on the stream. I think of the acts that are competing in the semifinals, they are the country that has come up with the best stage concept on how to use every single aspect available and option available to them on the Basel stage. Like, it is a full production, and truly it feels like we're going to a Laura Thorne like concert, right? Like, that stage was made for her. And I think when you see it, you'll kind of understand where we're coming from. It's not my personal favorite song, but it is the one that in my brain, it always goes back to. I can always remember and understand what happened, what was going on here, whatever. And so I think that is why I put that in my lock, is I think that it's going to really resonate and people are going to really enjoy this performance because of what they have done and how they've really upgraded this from the national final in Luxembourg.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was a good summary as well. I completely agree with that. It's like I had a whoa moment. I'm not sure if you felt the same. Just the beginning of Luxembourg is like it immerses you right into the performance. Like, okay, you're not Eurovision, but now you're in my dollhouse. You know, we're gone now. Like for the keyhole, how it flies through, and then you're just like totally into it. And they never allow you to leave that place until the song ends, and it's just so well executed. And we could we be wrong? Anybody could be wrong. Heck, Finland may not qualify. You know, crazy things have happened at Eurovision, so nobody says for sure. But I think both of us, Con and I, feel pretty confident in our prediction here. And if we're wrong, then you can yell at us later. We have a few more minutes here before the show starts at ESC United. Any other question? I think Luxembourg could have the Moldova 2018 Doritos effect. Very entertaining staging that somehow manages to score top 10. Interesting comparison. Could you see a universe, Connor, not necessarily the same stage in the field, could you see a universe where Luxembourg makes the top 10 in the grand final?
Oh, 100%. Especially because if it does qualify and it performs well in the televote, I think that there's a large possibility that televote carries over into the final. Obviously not in the same amount because you're adding more countries in, but I do think that this is going to be a little bit more highly favored by a jury than possibly a televote. Not by much, but I do see a world where, also again, depending on who qualifies at the semifinal, she could potentially pull out a top 10. Right now, and I've said this multiple times this week, this is an extremely open year. Because I don't think we necessarily have a very definitive runaway person. So anyone could be top 10, depending on who the juries are going to vote for and who the televote continues to support after the semifinals.
And when we say open year, that doesn't mean there won't be a landslide winner, because that can still happen if the juries and televoters strongly disagree. You know, that's going to be a weird thing. And then somebody who kind of did like okay with both groups could be like way ahead of the rest. So we want to be clear about that. Saying if it's an open year does not equate to no landslide winner. So, but I think there could be countries that could, you know, come out of nowhere and do much, much better than anybody anticipates, and vice versa. Speaking of doing much worse than before, do you still, I mean, just briefly, Connor, do you still, I mean, I don't know if you even had that opinion in the first place, but looking at the betting odds, the clear favorite to win is Sweden. How confident are you that that is already set in stone, or you don't see that at all? Where do you land on Sweden right now?
I still don't really know how I land on Sweden at the moment. Again, it's not me saying that it's not a good performance. I do enjoy the performance and things like that. I don't know. From Sweden, I don't get the same feeling that I got in Liverpool, in particular with Loreen. Now I know that it was Loreen, so like it came with a natural pull to it. But I didn't get like that same like, it's here. This is the one to watch. This is the one that's probably going to do it. I think it is, again, still in that bubble of it can do it. So I'm not discrediting them. I think it, again, is going to come down to how those votes shake out, because there's a world where they do win a jury and probably a televote, or do well in a jury and high televote. There's also a world where they come top 6 in both and they're in the top 10.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough one. It's a toughie. I feel like after watching the dress rehearsal tomorrow of the whole show, I feel maybe a little bit more certain. But right now, I still have Sweden as the winner, locked in. Not locked in, actually tentatively, I should say, but very open to change it, because I could see a similar situation this year like we had in 24, where, you know, a song maybe there could be like France, Austria, Switzerland, whoever pulls ahead so far in the jury vote that the televote almost is unsurmountable, the lead that they cannot catch up. I could see like that, something like that happening, and that is the beauty about the contest. That's why we love it. We don't want to have predictability, right? Do you think Maman and Voyage could cancel themselves out due to them being ballots? Connor? Your face says no, but
I would say no. I mean, I think part of that could potentially come down to the running order, right? If they end up being slotted next to each other in a running order, I think possibly, but because of how intricate France's staging is right now, I don't foresee that being a thing that happens. But I mean, right now we know that Switzerland is performing 19th, right? So they're in the literal last slot or 7th slot of the show in the second
put
half.
France away from her at least like 4 or 5 songs, you know, so it's either going to be like 14th or like second to last, but I don't think they're going to put them second to last because that's where they were last year, you know, but who knows?
Yeah, and they're probably, I mean, honestly, again, because of either they're going to have to create an ad break for France regardless of where they go, or they're going to put them after an ad break for that setup process, because we even saw a delay yesterday in setup for her. So whilst it could make sense because Switzerland's performance is so minimal in terms of staging and what needs to be set for it, sure, it could be good to put them next to each other from like a production standpoint. But the producers put songs in the running order based off of telling a story, and putting two ballads next to each other is not the way that the Eurovision producers make a running order. They will put something that is super high energy or crazy kooky weird in between, or have it a ballad stick in between there before they put two ballads right next to each other, unless it's ballad vision. Then everyone gets one.
I know, or like it's just the luck of the draw in the semis, right? Where they have to deal with what you have. But in the grand final, no, they have like 80% being producer-driven choice, anyways. I don't think that's going to be an issue. So they'll figure it out yet. So more to come on that. We'll find out tonight when everybody else draws their halves. Real quick, somebody was asking, what do you think about the audience poll results from the dress rehearsals? In case you didn't know, ESC Extra, ESC Insight, and some others, they always do interview like over 1,000 people that leave the arena and ask them who their favorites were. And I'm just going to read them real quick here from first to last. Finland is first, but almost tied with Austria, like 2 votes apart or 3 votes. Australia's third, 4 Malta, 5 Israel, 6 Ireland, 7 Luxembourg, 8 Armenia, 9 Denmark, 10 Greece. And then out 11 Latvia, but you know, they're close. 12 Serbia, 13 Lithuania, 14 Czechia, 15 Georgia, 16 Montenegro. So Connor, give you 2 seconds to think about this, what your thoughts are. To me, I think the biggest, I mean, again, these are just people how they vote, and sometimes people vote for their country that they're there. So I would take it with a grain of salt. I think in this first semi they got 8 out of 10 ending up. Belgium was 6, I think, so they didn't make it, and then Slovenia was 10, then they didn't make it. Here, I think the only thing I will take away is I'm, for me, pleasantly surprised that Ireland ended up pretty high in 6th place. The rest, all of this, I am not too surprised by. I still think anything between 6, I feel the top 5 are locked in. Anything between 6th and 14th is still up for grabs, in my opinion. So I would not read too much into it. It's just a nice observation, maybe some inklings, but again, it doesn't mean that much. What do you think, Connor?
I think them putting Ireland, to me, just personally, was very shocking. Just from a standpoint of, I don't know that it necessarily screams, you know, top 10. Again, when we have so many countries that are in this weird potential qualification bubble. But the audience also put San Marino 4th on the first semifinal, and they qualified, right? Pretty much all of us had them as a guaranteed non-qualifier. So it could happen, is what I will say. I do not predict it to happen because I kind of have Ireland in that like 11-12 slot right now. It's kind of chilling out there with Lithuania at the moment. And I don't know. I just think that there are better stagings that are more interesting and more captivating than this one. But if people love and have nostalgia for that early 2000s Euro Club dance number, then this may be the song that they vote for, right? Because it brings back the good feels and
Yeah.
the good memories. So it could happen. I just don't know if 6. I think it squeaks in. I think it would be an 8, 9, or 10 more than a 6.
Yeah, I would agree with that actually. It surprised me that it was that high up. Again, Belgium was 6 as well in semi 1, and Latvia last year was dead last in the audience poll.
That's
So
true.
anything is possible. So don't feel discouraged. Vote for your favorite. Unless I don't like it, then don't vote for it. But other than that, you should vote for whatever you like. And I know we only have a little bit more than 10 minutes before the show starts. So I just want to point out again, I will be back after the results. The link is already up. So make sure you subscribe, and then you get notified when I'm live, because I don't know if they're going to run over or not. So I'll make sure. Any final thoughts on your end, Connor, about tonight's show?
I will say one thing that we haven't hit on yet. I am not going to spoil things, but this information is out there that in the first semifinal we saw acts from Eurovision 2024 who came back and did an interval. This year we are seeing some of the acts from Eurovision 2020 who are going to be coming back and doing performance of the song that never got to see the Eurovision stage. And I think so far, of all of the intervals and performances that we've seen in the contest, that one was the most standout to me, because one, you get to see how these songs could have been, probably not in that exact version, right? Because they're playing with more money and whatever, but you kind of get to visualize the contest that could have been. So I'm kind of hoping that they do this like a little bit more, right? Especially because there are some artists from 2020 who haven't gotten to go back to Eurovision.
I know.
Right. And so I hope that maybe this year, we have a class of folks who were able to come back for their broadcaster. The Roop almost did it. I mean, they did, because it was going to landslide anyway. Next year, if they want to, or next time when they do this again, I hope that they bring back some of the folks who didn't get that opportunity to come back, right?
Yeah.
Estonia and Sweden in particular, because I think that those folks also deserve a chance to be on the Eurovision stage, even if it is just as an interval. I mean, it's something. Give them something, please.
Yes, I agree. And it's kind of, but then it will be 6 years since the pandemic cancellation, right? So maybe it's too old news at that point. I mean, 5 years. I mean, I was surprised to see it, glad, but I was surprised. So we'll see. All right, everyone. Connor, thank you so much again for joining us. I know you'll be busy for the grand finals and all that stuff. Boo-hoo. How dare you have a live? You're going to a viewing party, right?
Yep, I will be going to and hosting my own viewing party on Saturday. So
Boo. Me too. Party of one. Woo!
Well, you'll be joined by all of our people who are watching here. So
and my cute little puppy Gaston, who is asleep in the cage right now because I wanted him to rest. So I'll pick him up now that the show's over. So we'll be back. I will be back later tonight. Enjoy semifinal 2, and just remember, don't get too riled up. I know we all get disappointed our favorites don't make it, or our country. I don't have that problem anymore. So I don't get that feeling anymore, but I know that I still have my favorites. The music will not go away. Whether they qualify or not, you will have that music to listen to forever. And that is the most important thing. So thanks again for watching. And I'll see you all later. Good luck.
Bye, everyone.